3, 2, 1. Oh, that was quick. That was a little too quick.
You hit the button on like
I did.
2.
I was like 3, 2, 1.
He didn't
Welcome
give me
in.
any time. He just hit the button.
I gave you 0 time.
0 time.
Hey, I cleaned your palette.
0 time. Hey, can you switch over to said clean palette? Because it is really clean.
Look at that. There's a couple little scritches, but I don't have a paint scraper, so I had to do this with my nails.
It's pretty freaking amazing.
I had to do this with my fingers.
It's pretty freaking amazing. What?
So I dipped it in the bucket. Actually, I did both of our. We have 2
There's
glass
no glass palette, yep.
This one was actually the other one.
Gems.
Yours, I need to let sit overnight.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm gonna do it for 5 hours today. Still couldn't.
It's concrete. Yeah.
So
it's like
this one though is clean.
Mo, what's going on?
Welcome in,
Dunbrus
everybody.
Rattlecan, what's happening?
We're doing
Hello,
some
everybody.
Old hammer. That's a clean palette, Swifty Bear.
Can you imagine?
It's really.
You know what he didn't do though?
You want me to get you some? No, I do need to get you some new water. I do need.
I'll do it.
No.
Okay, you do
I
it.
can go do it. You need to show the people. Well,
Or actually, you know what? Do I have enough in all of
yeah,
these?
the
Oh,
wa-
I
the
don't.
water bottle.
I don't have enough water bottle to fill them up.
Here, I'll go.
Thank you, sir. You saw Chris's hand on camera there. That was really good. What's cracking, nerds? What's going on, everybody? We have got some freaking old hammer to paint. We have got some freaking old hammer to paint. We're going to have some fun with this. 100%. We've got one of the ancient inquisitors. Right? If you can... our matte black spray primer is so black you can't tell what's going on here. And then a gray knight. Look at that.
That's why I thought, oh my gosh, should I zenithal this? But I figured once you put color on it.
Oh, yeah.
Here you go.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Yeah. I figured once color gets on there.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome, welcome, welcome.
What's up? Blood Walrus Wad.
You have a freezer bag full of those termies, the Grey Knights?
Oh, Mo.
You have a freezer bag full of Grey Knights?
Look at that. Look how that guy, he's so cool looking though.
The Grey Knights have the really cool heads with the psyker hood on them, right? They all have the librarian-ish hood on them, right?
I might have missed a couple spots in priming.
And then the Grey Knight sword and book emblem.
Did I miss
there's
a couple? Oh, Jason.
some raw metal.
Oh no.
Because it's a Chris job.
Wait, what? There's so much wrong. Oh. I missed a spot. Is that
We'll
okay?
touch that up. It's fine.
Oh, we'll touch it up.
We'll touch that up.
Oh,
It's
you have
fine.
Brush
Fine.
on primer.
It was up here. The white is. Where's the black?
There's no black up
Somebody
there?
stole my black brush on primer. We stole my black brush on primer, Chris. Not here. All I have is white. I'll just use the airbrush.
Oh, yeah, do that. Do that.
Stop stealing my stuff, though.
I didn't take your stuff.
Well, you keep saying that, and yet it's not here.
I truly have no idea where the black is.
I don't have any black airbrush primer, Chris.
What?
I don't.
What are you talking about?
I have none. I have 2 things of white for some reason. I've got dark neutral gray, black green, or dark camo green, and black brown.
Now somebody.
I have no black.
Oh, wait.
I has no black. I has no black primer.
You don't have any black?
Chat, welcome to it. This is what happens. This is what happens, chat. I'm just checking to make sure I didn't lie to him and it's not like right in front of me someplace else, but it isn't. So I'm okay. I'm vindicated, chat. It's not here. We also have this guy, this inquisitor, right? But he's got like a Crozius, right? I think it's a force staff is what they would call it, right? But he's a Ordo Malleus Inquisitor with like big, huge demon skulls all over his stuff. His person. This is what happens when you leave Chris in charge. I wasn't going to say it. Chris is pretty good at what he does. Pretty good. Chris can't catch a break. Yeah, this is Old Hammer at its finest. I'm gonna do the Inquisitor first. He's the old metal bionic leg Inquisitor. It's so neat. So neat. The old Inquisition, I say old, the Inquisition logo. I don't know if it's the same as it is nowadays, so it's not that big of a deal. But these old Terminators, I was telling Chris right as the show started that these are literally like some of the best things ever. He's got the combi bolter, which is like combi las, it looks like, or combi melt. I don't know what that thing is on the top. It's got like a Xeno weapon on it, right? Because that's like an Eldar weapon on the top part. So just some really fun stuff. Really dig these. They're awesome. Find some airbrush. Awesome. Cool. Thank you.
All right, we're back. Looks like Space Marines from, yeah. They're old. These are old Hammer things. The other day I asked my surgeon if I could administer my own anesthesia. They said, go ahead, knock yourself out. Now, Papa Chicken, I don't want to call you out, but you said that joke the other day.
Yep. Redo.
I'm just
Repeat.
saying. I'm just saying.
Rejected.
Source, I think you missed the point, Chris. It just looks like a Space Marine, like all the other Space Marines. Oh, I get your point, Source, and I'm saying it's old, and they all do look the same, or do they?
They don't look the same. What kind of heresy is being subscribed
That's
to
right.
in my chat?
Source, this looks totally different. I can't help you there, Source. Yes, Pop Chicken, your mistake. That's okay. Avian, I'm not calling anybody old. I'm the oldest person in the room.
These are the OG ones that
They're
are
cool.
like back in the day when like an Inquisitor could wear Terminator armor, right? Like this is
Oh.
no joke, not a thing.
Is that it's not a thing?
You can't have an Inquisitor in Terminator armor. You're not a Space Marine. You're just a human. You can have like powered armor, kind of like Sisters of Battle have power armor, fit for them. But these were the same scale as the Terminators, which always threw me off because even in the lore back then, it wasn't that they were alike. There wasn't anything that was, making Space Marines less impactful. They were still supposed to be big super warriors.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of fun.
I like that one. It's got a little bionicle leg.
Yeah, he's got bionic
Oh, wow. I
leg.
really missed a spot there. Holy Moses. Wow. I'll see myself out.
I mean,
I'll see myself to the door,
you're
chat.
not allowed to
Speaking
quit.
of seeing myself to the door,
Welcome, everybody.
in everybody.
How
We're
did
doing
I
some
know that
old
was
Hammer.
coming?
We're doing some old Hammer this week.
How did I know that was coming?
Get ready. Get excited.
Get real.
Get ready. Get excited. Yes, doing some old Hammer this week. Last week we were showing off some of our expert artist acrylics, which will be coming out very soon. So if you missed that,
If you weren't here for that, we really had fun churning
it's
out this armor. I thought it
she's
was great.
awesome. She came out great. Look at that. Came out great, man. Look at that
Paint
breastplate.
some-
The gauntlet. This one, the holding the head.
Yeah.
Really like that. How that came out.
Yeah. Very happy with that. She look good.
I turned the airbrush on for you.
Just in case?
If you need it for colors or anything.
Thank you.
But yes, if you missed that, go check it out. He painted that bust and all the armor on it. Yes, the Wraith Queen.
Just touching up the spray can prime with a little bit of our airbrush primer here on the brush. But somebody stole my brush on primer.
Somebody
People coming in my studio and just stealing my stuff, chat.
Jason, I didn't do it.
It was right here next to the white. It was fluorescent green, black brush on, white brush on. And I have not brushed anything on.
I didn't do it.
So
Is it-
stolen for photo
is it-
ops.
Is it in front of you somewhere?
No, literally.
Where is it?
I looked when you were gone because I even said to chat quietly without you being in earshot. I was like, I should probably look and make sure that I'm not throwing Chris under the bus just because it's sitting right in front of me. It's not.
It's not?
Not. I don't have 50 colors here, Chris. It's easy to work through them all. I can see that none of these are. All of my Wizard's Blood is right there. Right?
I truly don't know where it actually is. Because I have not used it. That's all right. We'll
I'm sure somebody grabbed it for a photo or
no, because I have a whole set.
When Jordan was in here brush priming things when I was gone, he did it and didn't put it back.
I'll figure it out. We'll get you something.
Whatever, dude.
We'll get you a replacement.
Whatever.
And by replacement, I mean me.
Whatever. By replacement, you mean we're replacing you?
Phil says, "Is that a new Grey Knight? I thought they weren't getting new models in their codex."
Yep.
Yeah,
it's a new Grey Knight. It's so good too. These guys are great. I used to love it because they were so different. It felt like they were so different from the normal Terminators because of the hood, the psychic hood, right? Because all the Grey Knights are psychers. And so they had the psychic hood, but the psychic hood on them isn't the standard blue. Because like there's a Terminator librarian that's like this, but they would always paint him up with the blue hood. Right? I think he was like a blood angel with a blue hood. These guys are rad.
They're super cool.
R-A-D, rad. Yeah, before, like I said, before stream started, I was telling Chris, I was like, I used to dream about these dudes because these Terminators were very rare, And so these bring back some memories right here, boys and girls. This Inquisitor is amazing. He literally has, this is back when you had like, maybe it was Archaeo Tech or Xenos Tech duel. Because he's got a combi bolter with like some sort of Eldar thing on it, shuriken. Because there was a time in like Rogue Trader where you could have a lot of shared weapons between races. It was fun. All right, so here's my idea. The Inquisitor would not have hot pink armor, so don't even start. The Inquisitor would have gold armor, I think, right?
You said he'd have gaudy armor.
Like gaudy inquisitorial gold with red.
Yeah.
Right? So much more like we would paint a Custode, right? Like Custode's army. So I'm thinking we'll do red shoulder plates with gold armor, right?
Ooh. Yeah.
And maybe a red knee pad or something on it with like a skull, a demon head or something like that. Because the other guy has got like demon skulls. Like he's got a big demon skull on his shoulder plate.
Chaos thing.
Right. Yeah, because this guy looks more like a word bearer almost, right? Than a standard Inquisitor, but he has the Imperial logo on it. It's just funny because like his whatever long range bolter thing has got like skulls on it. He just looks very chaotic. But it's crazy because that arm has the double-headed eagle. So it's just a different world of 40K than we're in right now. All right, so let's go. Let's do it. Let's paint. So, and then I'll do non-metallic silver on the Grey Knight.
Ooh.
So we'll have both. You'll have both, chat. Both.
How do you approach old models like this, Jason?
So the thing when I'm looking at it nowadays versus how I would have painted this when it came out, 20 plus years ago, 30 years ago, this is a 90s model.
90s model?
So I was around doing this when this model was new. And it's crazy to think about because I would have just picked this guy up and painted him. Yeah. Because this is how all the models were, right? And it's tough to tell. Can you just zoom in real close?
Yeah.
See if we can't help out here a little bit with like the way these models are. This guy has like a very Space Wolf looking head, right? He's got a beard and skin, and his head barely fits in the Terminator area. It's just crazy.
It's cool though.
But the thing with these models nowadays is that they're not very dynamic. Right? We're so used now to models that have a level of dynamic motion to them. Even something as simple as a Space Marine that's running, pointing a gun, and screaming tells a lot more story with just the model. Right? And not to mention, non-Terminator versus Terminator, bro. Scale has gotten bigger. There's better imposed detail on models, and the drama that the sculpt itself brings is very, very good. So you wind up in a situation where, you know, you have all this ability to do fun stuff in your painting, and you don't have to really try super hard. Whereas when you look at something like this, it's very stagnant pose. All of these guys were legs shoulder width apart, toes pointing forward, shoulders and chest and all that in that parallel motion. They're like this, and then the arms, very robotic, looking straight forward. Very rare to have one with a head turned. Some of the Space Marine lieutenants were like this in profile, but they were in 90-degree profile, head turned 90 degrees, arm out 90 degrees, other fist like this, right? And they were just very boring poses because they were all done in like one single mold. So these guys had arms, but then the rest of it was one mold. And in order to get that mold to work, you have to do them very flat, very, very boring in order to make the molds work. So from molding metal and all that, and all the spin casts in order to keep the parts at a minimum quantity. And so you didn't have to glue a million things together. Then they made them very boring models. And so nowadays when we do it, we have to do more with paint. So that's why I say I think something like non-metallic gold on him, do some really cool shading and stuff like that, so that we can make this model really come alive. And I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, so we'll play around because the model itself is cool and nostalgic for me, but boring when we really think about it, right? It's just not a model that we would, it's going to need to latch into that nostalgia to really come alive for it. All right, so I'm thinking maybe some dark camo green to start.
Oh,
we're going to do it with dark camo green as a base.
Okay.
Okay, because we're going to do red shoulders. So I don't want to do oranges as a base for the gold. Much like our Blood Angels, we'll start with a base of greens. Green. And such. I don't think I need to airbrush anything.
Okay.
Let's think about this. Do we? No. 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 Final answer. No.
Okay. I'll turn the...
Final answer. No. These are so classic.
He's very classic looking. Question: Amp landing UK Atlantic side when? Question mark.
They
Amp
should have already been there. I think Element already has been selling.
So, yeah.
I have to double check with that, but they got sent their stuff a long time ago. They're one of the first to order. So
Avian says he's an Inquisitor. Shouldn't he be purple?
no. Why? Is that a thing? Is there a joke there? I don't know.
Well, because you paint everything purple, maybe?
Oh. Yeah. No. I mean, probably. But I'm gonna
Papa
do green.
Chicken has a question. I'm painting a scheme that is dark gray with a couple panels red. How would you might sneak some green hues into the gray so that it looks more interesting, but still reads as dark gray?
Dark gray.
Would you also try and sneak some green into the red?
What's the purpose of the green? Why do you want green?
Yeah, what's up with the green, Papa Chicken?
Green on gray? Not impossible to pull off. Green in the red, very difficult because, you know, greens and reds give you browns. So...
Just creating visual interest. Is there a better color to choose from, says Papa Chicken?
Well, so you're saying visual interest, but I want to know what story are you trying to tell that green was the choice you wanted? Because I'm not trying to deter you from it. I just want to understand what it is you were hoping to get so that I can help guide you through that with either that color or a different one. I think that in general, green as an undertone works really, really well. So you could just paint your base of your grays with something like what I'm doing right now, and that would work. And then just build your grays up as a mix so your shadows have the green in them. That would be my first choice if you're doing the gray with the green. The red with the green I don't think is a necessity.
I was thinking a bit of green would make the red pop a lot more. Am I wrong?
So I have to understand what you mean, the green and the gray or the green and the red? Because you asked about green and red. The green and the gray I think would be great, right? I mean, you could paint this model gray and use the dark camo green as a base.
Yeah, because at the end of the question, Papa Chicken said, would you also try to sneak some green into the red?
No.
Mm-hmm. In the gray.
No need.
Papa Chicken says, in the gray.
Yeah. I think in the gray, just use something like what I'm doing now with the, the dark camo green or
this is dark camo green.
Dark
PNG.
yellow green works really well for that as well. So all of that.
Grimlight has a bit of an off-topic question. How would you approach painting cold, frozen Caucasian skin? Painting up some Vikings.
Cold, frozen? Like you painting dead Vikings?
Yeah, is it dead? Is this undead thing, Grim?
Like frostbitten, cold, frozen skin.
It says cold,
means
frozen
you're dead.
Caucasian skin.
Because if you're not dead, then the blood pumping and the warmth of your clothes hopefully keeps you warm. So you just paint them Caucasian. If you want to add a little bit more of a blue-gray in the shadows, helps with that. Mm-hmm. Don't go as pink with the skin tones, if that makes sense.
Now, Jason, is there a reason why you went brush over airbrush for this step?
These are smaller scale. The airbrush, I'd be spending as much time covering up everything I got overspray on. So here I can make sure that I leave like the areas in the back of the knee unpainted so that black is already black.
Right.
Right? So that's my thought process here.
Nice.
Right? I can just be a little bit more controlled with
I get you.
So I'm not spending an inordinate amount of time redoing it later.
Wad says airbrushes didn't exist back then.
Yeah. We're doing this. We're paying homage to the old painters. Those came before dirt.
Before dirt.
You guys got it so good. We didn't even have dirt back when I started painting minis.
Back in my day.
Right. We barely had invented dirt, and we had to use dirt to make pigment.
Back in my day.
I love all these old hand sculpted dudes.
Because when you hand sculpted?
Yeah, these are before digital sculpting. These are guys making stuff out of putty and green stuff and sculpting models.
That's wild.
A lot of companies still do that.
Grimlight says, not dead Vikings, but more like starting to succumb to the cold. Okay, I see what you're saying. So they're not dead yet, but they're like almost frozen, succumbing to the cold.
Yeah, so purple shadow for the skin, and then like a lot of a dark gray blue works really well, along the areas of like 5 o'clock shadow. Whoa, Chris.
Did it come off?
Chris.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Do we have more?
It's right down below. It's below you there. Came off.
All of it went into the underside of the base.
Oh. Okay.
You filled in the base with it, but you got to put enough to...
Oh. I'm sorry.
No. It felt good. It felt strong on there. It just wasn't enough to grab. A lot of times position it to where you can kind of stick the edge into it like that, so it kind of goops up over
really
the
get
corner.
it on there.
And
then Dumbrus, you know what? I truly think so. I used it enough for they're just so heavy.
They're heavy.
Underestimated the amount of tack you'd need.
They're heavy. They really pull on the freaking cork anyway, so there's not a real good method for this.
So it's starting to succumb to the cold.
Yeah, dark purple as a base, right? And then dark gray blue. You could mix the gray blue into your flesh tones to get, for your first layer of skin, something like shadow flesh with dark gray blue. Get a little bit of that kind of frigid look to it. You don't want it to turn blue because that looks like undead. But if you put a little dark gray blue into your main skin tone, you'll start pushing it that way. Into that kind of frigid looking color. Could be fun.
Chris, clean the palette. Yes, it's nice and clean.
It's so clean, I don't even know what to do. I look over there and I'm like, what is this?
You can see the light.
Thank you, Christopher, by the way.
You can see the light in the corner of it.
You are an officer and a gentleman. A man amongst men.
You know, in a paint company, a company that makes paint, you'd think we'd have some kind of paints, like plastic paint scraper somewhere in the building. We do not.
Well, we do.
I don't know where it is.
It went with production.
Oh, okay.
Production is now in another building because production was always in charge of cleaning the palette. They had the bucket and all that stuff.
Yes.
And so all the tools for cleaning said palette probably are over in production. So if you went to Palm, you'd find all that. But that seems very inefficient. Just going to say it out loud.
Now imagine how all the metal 40K size Thunderhawks from 1997 weighed.
I had one
that sold for 30K US. What? 30K USD recently?
Oh,
like an antique?
Came in a wooden box, numbered. I had one.
What happened to it?
You don't want to know.
Oh boy, I think I know.
When I divorced my second wife and left the house, right, prior to the divorce, I left all of my bigger models behind. They were in a storage cabinet in the garage that I just forgot. I don't really have a good excuse for why I didn't grab them. I just kind of forgot that cabinet until later, and by that time I was like, well, that's gone. The first Forge World Lucius pattern Warhound Titans, I had one of those. I had a resin Thunderhawk. I had the resin Lucius pattern Warhound Titan, which is the square body one, not the Mars one that they sell now.
Yeah.
I had the metal Thunderhawk, not put together. Well, it was sort of semi put together. That thing was a disaster, that model. It was a lot of pieces, and it was horrible.
Oh my goodness.
So I hated it back then, but it was fun to have. The original, I had a trio of the original Dragon models that were shown in the Games Workshop catalog for Warhammer Fantasy. The old dragons with the paper inserts to make the webbing on the wings, and the Empire riders on them, and the Elf rider. I had the Empire, the Elf, and I think another Empire guy that were the original ones painted by the Heavy Metal team. Like, I had the ones that were actually in the catalog.
Wow.
Painted by the Heavy Metal team from Nottingham. For that thing, gone. Just gone. Just gone. Paper banners, paper hand-painted banners.
That's crazy,
The
dude.
paper wing inserts hand-painted. Oh, my God. I just kill myself every time I think about it.
Oh, boy. Well, what are you going to do?
Not do that again. That's what I'm doing.
Brando says, I might be able to... I might be able to answer this question. I've tried it. What is the upper limit of temperature you've tested for the spray can primers? Will I be fine spraying in high 90s, or I will need to spray in the mornings? Oh yeah, I've
as long as the can itself,
I've sprayed outside at probably at 110.
Our cans are really resilient. You can spray it. You can almost, you wouldn't like the turnout, but you can almost spray in the rain with them. Not lying.
I actually did that a couple weeks ago.
They're literally amazing. But temperature-wise, you don't really have any worry. Just don't store them in that temperature.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to store them above or below room temperature if you can avoid it, because it takes them longer to get back to usable form. You need to get them in, like if they're sitting out in the garage during winter, you need to put them in warm water. Let them get back to room temperature. Not boiling, just warm water. So as long as you're spraying with the can at room temperature, meaning that it was stored in your house or in an area that isn't overly hot all the time, then yeah, you can just go for it. They will win.
Mo says, Jason, I cry real tears every time you tell this story.
He's heard it a lot, too. Mo's been around a long time. He knows that story's never changed. Although I don't know that I remembered the dragons until right now that I'm painting this old hammer model.
Isn't cold the issue, not the heat for rattle cans?
So it's humidity is really the issue, and cold is bad for the can itself because the paints will not reconstitute right until they're at room temperature. So you want to make sure that you're keeping it in the high 60s mid 70s kind of range.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're fine. And you're fine. But you don't have to like put a turkey baster thermometer in it or anything. You know, you just use your best judgment.
Osmond says, have y'all flown with your paints before? I'm thinking about packing up my go bag Neo to fly out to conventions and wasn't sure how the paint is with being in a commercial aircraft.
So the way I fly with mine is that I take the paints out of my bag, whether I'm flying with a Neo or an Evo, do the same thing. I take the paints and the foam trays and I put them in my checked luggage. And then I take my carry-on stuff and put it in my Neo or my Evo. So the bag that I carry on has whatever I would normally do. I use it as a carry-on bag, right? My computer or whatever else I need to take, headphones, blah, 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 right? And that way you've got all your carry-on bag with your carry-on stuff. And then when I get to wherever I'm going, then I put all my carry-on stuff back in my luggage or whatever and move the paints back into the bag. When you get to your destination, because they've now been at various altitude and pressure, you'll want to crack them open like a Coke can, right? Don't just open them up. Imagine you just flew with a 2-liter bottle of Coke. You'll want to twist the actual cap on them. So not the twist top to get the paint out, the actual cap itself. Twist it. And depending on how they've settled after the flight and the barometric pressure where you land, you might hear them even go tss. So do that, and then when you open the twist top, they won't just spooge out. Fluid dynamics in a sealed container, because the bottles do seal, and they will have paint pop out of them under pressure, sometimes violently. These are so funny, these models. Like some of the times you can see like the rough spots in the sculpt or in the metal coming out of the mold. Like it has a texture to it.
Yeah. It's very old looking.
These are great. By the way, have I mentioned how great our spray primers are?
It's interesting with these because when I was spraying it, I felt like it got the whole model, but I couldn't for some reason. Like I gotta work on getting into the crevices on some of these. I think I was out in the sun because this is an old metal mini. I couldn't identify if I had gotten it or not, but it's because it's so dark too that it's hard to see some of the details.
It is funny that the cool. Paint is so matte.
It's so dark. So matte, yeah.
That you lose the vision on the detailing.
Yeah.
I think we might do hazard stripes.
Hazard stripes?
On the Power Fist.
Oh, why is that?
Because that's old school.
I didn't know that. Browbro cough, airbrush cough. Yes, we could have used an airbrush, but Chris decided to rattle can prime these. I love using our rattle can, so
they're too good. Makes it easy.
Ooh, excuse me.
Gesundheit, Christopher. Don't die.
Mo, hot pink and yellow hazard stripes? Question mark.
Nobody does that, Mo.
Nobody does that, Mo. But you tried, and I read it aloud for you, and I did my best.
Nobody does that, Mo. It's not a thing. Gold fingers, hazard stripes on the thing. I think. Yeah, I think that might be cool. I don't know though. Non-metallic gold with hazard stripes on it. I think it'll work.
Those models, like when you punch out, they're super small.
Oh, tiny.
I
just showed them next to. I mean, like if we show them next to the Primaris Marines, right?
Oh, right. Oh man, so crazy.
Isn't that nuts? And that's a Terminator.
Yeah.
You know, we show it next to a Terminator that's at scale.
Oh, right.
How silly is that, right?
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, they're pretty funny. They were easy to paint.
Yeah.
They were tiny.
I
Teeny
guess
tiny.
You go quick.
We'll do his leg in steel.
Okay, so you're gonna do the leg like metal bits?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
I think so, right?
That would be cool.
I might do like the top of this.
Get crazy with it.
I might do the top of this piston on the outside of the leg in gold. Well, it looks like it has like a coil spring on it the way it's sculpted. Doesn't make any sense, but
It has a spring.
it seems to, but it's a weird conglomeration of stuff here. I don't think it's what it's supposed to be. This is what happens when you have non-engineers sculpt stuff while smoking way too much marijuana back in the
A spring
80s
would
and
look
90s.
pretty cool on this thing, wouldn't it? There.
Like, cheat, cheat, cheat.
Drax says they were easy to paint and fell apart constantly. It didn't matter if they had metal arms or plastic.
Also true. You just made a grievous
Don't
error.
ask them where the bullets come out of.
Hey, this one has holes. What do you mean where the bullets come out of? This one's been drilled.
Yeah, they're pre-drilled.
Now, don't ask where they store extra bullets,
Yeah, who knows,
because
dude?
that we don't have. He has one magazine, and then it's time to go home. So you better get it done in one. They got to be a crack shot. Take out all the bad guys super quick. Home by dinner.
Dumbra says, I'm thinking this may just be the best stream ever. I'm very happy you're enjoying that. I'm happy you're enjoying it. Hopefully this is some of the oldest stuff you've all seen painted in a while.
Home by dinner. Yellow green, folks.
Home by dinner. What's up, guys? Says Aaron. After talking to my therapist after seeing Chris on camera, nice, I'm finally brave enough to come back. Kidding, of course. Excited to see the new mini painted up. Aaron, you're banned. And tell that to your therapist.
Aaron?
Hey, yo. It's fine. Welcome in, man. We're happy to have you. And we're happy you're here. And you know what?
You can't ever tell if Chris is angry.
Never been angry in my entire life.
Also lies.
Speaking of being angry, though, welcome in, everybody. Great segue there, Aaron. I am so glad you all are here. Yeah, I'm like the Hulk. You know?
You're always angry.
That's right. That's the trick. Dusty Hobbies, did I miss Chris Cam? There was never a Chris Cam ever in the world of History of Man. I had to do it because I had to get the shot. And I've always been told as a young man, as a videographer,
do whatever you got to do to get the shot.
Got to get the shot. Sometimes that means risking it all to put your face out in the world.
Might do those vents in a different color, I think.
So what color are you using here?
Yellow green, Chris. I
Nice.
showed it on the stream there.
I know you did.
I put it in front of the camera there, Christopher.
I needed a quick snippet of your audio saying that.
It's what he says, chat, when he doesn't remember what's going on.
No, it's 100%
You know what
that.
I need as a top-notch producer?
Yeah.
You know what I need right now, Jason? I need for you to redo whatever it was you just did that I wasn't paying attention to. That's what I need.
Aaron, I appreciate it. And I appreciate you all. I appreciate everyone here.
Except me.
That's not true. Not true. Always appreciate Jason. So what are you doing here, Jason?
I'm putting some yellow-green on the model.
Nice.
Starting to dial in where my highlight colors will go. have these Terminators, right? You have these big flat surfaces.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of going in very thin to get some color on, making sure I leave a little bit of the darkness showing through. Not really super nice blends, not super concerned with it, but just enough to make sure that I'm getting some good color on here. And I'll paint more than I really need to. I always think of these things in terms of, if I've got a guy in gold armor, would everything, all the skulls and everything be gold too? All the emblems? We're going to go ahead and treat it like that. And then if we want to change it and have the emblems not be gold, we'll just paint over them when the time comes.
So do you change up any of your normal techniques when painting a model like this that has the less dynamic poses, or is it kind of, you approach it all the same way?
The same way. I think you probably are going for a little bit more contrast, right? Because of the fact that you're trying to make the eye interested a little bit more, since the model's not telling that story. So I might want to pop a little bit more contrast on it as I go. If you paint these in kind of more of a subdued, desaturated way, military colors and things like that, then you don't have as much space because the scale is smaller to get your point across. So that might affect it. And again, the sculpt is not very dynamic, so you could lose very quickly a lot of the neat capability to make the model look great just by going with dull colors. The eye loses interest because the model itself, well, like I said, if you're nostalgic for these things, if seeing this model is like, oh my God, I remember when, then it doesn't matter because you're going to think this thing was great. If you've never seen it before and you're used to modern day models, you're going to look at this and go, dude, oh man, what are you painting this garbage model for? And that's the mentality that I'm painting for right now, is if you think these models are, not great looking, the sculpts were bad and uninteresting, then how do you bring it a little bit more to life? And you're going to have to pop some dynamic contrast on it, use non-metallic, right? Because they weren't done that way back in the day. So, help yourself out.
It's getting me excited to try to paint one. I'll be honest with you.
They're no different than any other model other than that, though. Like, honest to God, there is nothing you need to know other than it being metal and a pain in the butt. Sometimes we want to make sure you're not knocking your brush ferrule up against the model because the primer will knock off quicker, stuff like that, just because it's so brittle, so to speak. Not brittle, but adhesion of the paint is not as great until more layers get seated on the model than doing plastic. Because it has a harder substrate, so you can bang against the tip of the sword and lose paint very quick. Stuff like that.
Careful, Jason. I feel attacked. I run the OG Metal Karn as a normal troop still.
Nice. Nothing wrong with that.
Honestly, I would love an army of old dudes like this. Would love it. I think that'd be kind of fun. I saw at Nova when Jason and I were walking around last year when you were doing the coins. We saw that one old fantasy demon army that was all
it was awesome.
OG,
all old metal OG
horror models, dude. Oh, it was so well done. It was so cool.
It was great.
Like all of the small little Lord of Change birds and the it was so good.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and it was painted beautifully.
Yep, it was very, very. The paint job was cool. It was very cool.
Very bright, very colorful. Lots of contrast through color on that one. He was doing Zinch, I believe.
He did Zinch because he had the original like green and pink horrors. I don't remember what I think it was Zinch, yeah.
Yeah, it was Zinch. I think the whole army was Zinch.
What's the name of this model? Do we know the
It's an
official
Inquisitor.
name? It's an Inquisitor.
Inquisitor in Terminator armor. Back when you could do such a thing.
It's not space. Is it Space Wolves?
No, this is just an
Okay.
Inquisitor.
Papa Chicken, how do you determine the size plinth you should get for a display model?
I typically say go about. So, what base size would the model be on? Is my first question. If you're doing a model like a Terminator that would be on a 50 mil base or 40 mil base, right? Then I would say you're probably looking at doing something at a max of if it's a single model of like 75 to 80 mil, right? I generally go about 50% bigger than the base size. There's not a reason why you couldn't go 100% bigger and do a 100 mil base, but you run into the area where you start taking away from the model if you have too much base. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I like that kind of, 50% starting point and see if that gives you enough to tell your story. And if not, then max of 100% bigger than the standard base the model comes on, is what I'm saying. A lot of people go too big. That's the thing I'll throw in there.
You were saying that the other day when you were talking about dioramas in general, you should just make your overall diorama smaller.
Generally speaking, yes. When people get into dioramas, the biggest mistake that they make, or scenic bases for display, the biggest initial mistake that people make is they build it too big. Because they think the base is the story.
Right.
The model's still the story. The base is letting you show more of the world the model lives in. But don't forget that the model is the story, not the base.
Yep.
So that's the biggest thing that you have to remember when doing that. That's why I don't go too big with the overall size. Because you don't want to lose the model in and amongst all the stuff you do on the base. Because just like weathering, it can get to a point where it's like, oh my God, that looks so good. And then you've done too much. We've all seen the Nurgle models that are so weathered that they just look like mud. There's a point.
Yeah.
There's a point where you needed to have stopped a while back. Same is true of bases and everything else you paint.
Right? Kind of have to know when to stop.
All things in moderation, kind of a deal. I love that these guys are on 25 mil bases.
Well, Kyle and I were talking about well, should we put them on normal size bases? No, we gotta keep them OG. Gotta keep them original.
I like them.
They're fun.
But honestly, no difference in the way I'm approaching painting them at all. Like Chris was asking. No need to.
It's one of those things where it's you just might not get into this situation so often, so it feels so brand new when you get something like this because we're so spoiled with so many amazing details nowadays.
Yeah, and like I said, it's funny to say that the biggest difference in the model is the amount of dynamic storytelling the model does for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we're so used to. Because nowadays you buy a model in a box and it's like, oh, I don't have to try hard. I mean, you still got to try hard to make it look nice.
Yep.
But you don't have to do much of the storytelling. The model's already running and charging and screaming and gung-ho and feels right.
Aaron asks, what's your favorite faction in Warhammer, Chris? If we're talking 40k, I would say orcs. They're fun.
Chris is a
I like orcs.
Gentleman of distinguished wa.
Yeah, I like the big I like the stompas. I like the big robots of the orcs because they're just big old trash cans, it feels like.
Oh, they're so good.
They're fun. The stompa was one of my favorite things to build and paint. It was just a fun time. I'm still got to put war paint all over it, too. They're fun. Now, Age of Sigmar, I like a lot of them. I couldn't choose.
Again, I don't know if that skull will stay gold or if I'll do it in bone color or whatever. There's a reason for both, but we'll play around with it and see.
That on his hand there?
Yeah. You know, all these details like that. You can imagine them either being inlaid gold on the armor or having their own color. We'll play around and see what we like at the end of the day.
Chuck, I don't know if that's how work works. In today's episode of Adventures in Machine Shops, our HR lady, Director of People Operations, sent out an email stating we should keep our work calendar up to date for the purpose of scheduling meetings. Additionally, she requested we share our personal calendars in quotes in the event of needing off our meetings.
But that's not how work works.
Chuck, you should just block out all of your personal calendar time with
Not working.
personal calendar time.
Yeah. Personal time, not for work.
You should just put out of office. That's funny.
I learned so much from you, Chuck. This is now a policy at Monument Hobbies.
We'll do it.
At Monument Hobbies, I have a hard time getting people to go home at night, is the problem. The other day, everybody left and I didn't know what to do. I was like, wait a minute, who am I going to yell at for not being here late?
I don't know what to tell you.
You left. You're
did.
usually like, I'm like, Chris, when are you leaving?
Because you yell
Chris,
at
you got to
me.
get out of here. Chris, can't be here any longer.
This week we'll see. This week's a busy one. Why is it people like 40K want the models of 30K but want them in 40K scale? Says 4-time Lord.
Why?
Oh, first time chat. Welcome in.
You're asking why people want the armor types but in new scale?
Yeah.
The big issue with 40K is and will always be until they get their act straight with it that the artwork has always outperformed the models.
Okay.
The artwork and the stature of Space Marines in particular has always been so more dynamic and heavy duty than the... Can you help me with focus here? I feel like it's out of focus now that we're not doing a big model anymore.
How's that look?
That looks good, yeah.
I might adjust it tomorrow and move it over a touch for you too.
But yeah, that's it. 30K armor for a lot of people really rings true. It's that old fashioned, like I'm not a big fan of Primaris armor. It looks way too modern for the Baroque nature of 40K in my opinion. So I'm not a big fan of it. So for my armies, my preference is like Mark 2, 3, and 4 armor. Mm-hmm. I just love the Heresy marks. They're what I grew up being Space Marines. It just felt so right.
Yeah.
But they're all tiny, right? Like this guy. This guy's super duper tiny. The only reason you wouldn't... Well, you could probably use this particular model today and it would feel right because it's a human Inquisitor. It's not a Space Marine. And so he's in power armor that looks like Terminator armor, but its scale works when you put it next to Marines nowadays. Because he wouldn't be that tall. He's just a human. Somehow he afforded to have the AdMech scale a Terminator suit down to his size. But...
yeah, okay. Because you prefer the 30K size better, Jason?
No, I like the 40K size. I like Primaris size. Oh. Let's get specific. Okay. I think Primaris is the first time we've had Space Marines that felt big enough to be Space Marines on the table.
Oh, okay.
Space Marines were always no bigger than any of the other factions.
But they are bigger.
They're supposed to be bigger. And when you look at the artwork, you always felt robbed. I did, at least.
Why did they do that?
Just the amount of material, I'm assuming.
Oh, okay.
The ability to spin cast models, because they all started being, spun metal and things like that. So they weren't doing everything on plastic sprue. So it's only been in the last X amount of years that
they made them feel more Space Marine.
Yeah. I feel like that's the fair way to put it.
Space Marine-y?
Primaris is definitely better on that whole sizing thing. The other scale just doesn't work right for Space Marines at all. That's why I went and had the guy who sculpts now he does all the heresy marks of armor at Primaris scale. And that's what all of my Blood Angels are. Right?
Oh, okay.
These are all like Mark III armor.
Nice.
And the old jump packs, Heresy era jump packs. Hell, my Death Guard or Death Company are all Mark II armor. And this is what really made me fall in love with Space Marines. The big bulky legs with the banded armor, that looks super chunky.
I like the legs on that guy. He's got, yeah, right? I see what you're saying.
But at Primaris scale, so, you put it next to this guy, and it's a freaking giant.
Yeah.
Comparatively speaking.
Gotcha.
And the old fan. Right? Jump packs. So yeah, I'm a huge, huge fan of old Mark armor in modern scale. Okay. I just want to be able to put Space Marines on the table and have them feel like they're meant to be.
Yeah.
And the models have always just missed that. Until Primaris came out. And even then, when Primaris came out, the human models keep getting bigger. Like the AdMech or the Astra Militarum models keep getting bigger. And it's like, well, you can't do both, dude.
Yeah.
Like, let Space Marines be Space Marines. And if anything, make the other ones smaller again.
Right.
So yeah, scale creep is a thing. And it tends to be underwhelming at the end of the day. It makes all the armies, no matter which one you like, feel better on the table. But when you set them up next to each other, it strips away the idea of Chaos Space Marines and Space Marines, or these big, huge, imposing figures.
Yeah.
But they're not, because you can put an Ogryn on the table that is huge. And I mean, the Ogryns are supposed to be pretty big.
Right.
But you can put a normal AdMech guy on the table, and it's like, so why are my guys cool? But then again, we could get into the whole, but Space Marines also play just like, Astra Militarum, so they don't feel like Space Marines in the way they play on the table either. And you wouldn't be wrong. They've always felt underwhelming. I've always thought Space Marines needed to be an army where you had fewer dudes. In all the videos and stuff you watch,
there's only like one or two guys.
A squad of 5 like obliterates a planet.
Yeah.
Takes over a whole city. And that's kind of the way the lore has gone. And yet we got to field, an army of 47 of them and just to pick them up off the table in droves.
Interesting.
And that just makes everything feel underwhelming to me. I've always liked... I'm a big fan, though, of the play style of what we call elite armies. Armies that have fewer model count, and each model is more of a powerhouse.
Yeah.
Number one, I'm lazy, and so it allows me to play armies that don't take as many moves in the phases that we play them in, which is fun. But each one of those moves is more thought-provoking, I think, because if you lose one of your guys, it's a big chunk of your army gone.
Yeah, that's why I like Gargants. That's the downside of those.
Gargants, like that's a very elite army because you have very few models. If you lose one, your whole game could go down the toilet.
Yeah.
So you have to make really good decisions with big, expensive models.
Yep.
Yeah, that's how I love to play. And I feel like Space Marines should be that, but they know where their bread is buttered, and Space Marines are the poster children of 40K.
Yeah. And
they got to have a lot of them to sell. And so they can't make your army only need 20 dudes because they'd have to all be $50 a piece in order for them to make the money they need to make the game compelling from a business standpoint. So all the armies become very similar. They all have a way to run them as horde armies. So you can buy a lot of models.
Michael Holtz and beats the heck out of rolling 60 dice for one attack. I don't know.
What does? For orcs?
I like my, I think just in general, like having fewer models. Do you roll less dice?
Depends. You can roll more, right? If they're elites, they can roll as much as a whole squad. I don't know that that's really my concern. I think it's that I don't want to move big blocks of, tons of dudes.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
The maintenance of a big army, the painting of a big army, all of that. I like elite armies because fewer model count gets me going.
Or
jazzes me up.
You could have 60 shootas goblins and have 120 attacks.
which you did, and you rolled them on the
It
floor.
was amazing. I got 9 to go through.
Yeah. Out of rolling 120 something against unbearable odds. And you got you got like 9 or 10 hits?
Well, I was also
wounds?
firing against a very strong unit. I think Phillips.
Oh, it was like chaos. Or
I think so. I think he had a 3-up save or something like that. Aaron says, "What's the best game to start on? I heard Warcry is beginner friendly."
I liked Warcry. I've only played it once with the ogres that we built and painted on stream, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really unique game in that it was all objective based, and your kill count is important. But in the objective that I played with zombies, every time you killed a model, the model that killed the opponent got marked, and other models got more points for killing that model. So it turned the tide of battle back and forth on you. You know, I had big ogres that could go in and slaughter people, but then that ogre I needed to get out of combat because she would put a lot of models on it, because if she killed it, she got more victory points because it had killed one of her models. It was like a revenge scenario.
Yeah.
And so you had to be careful tactically. So while it was easy to understand and fun to play, it's very in-depth from a tactical standpoint. You can just put models on the table and you have, 5 to 10 models. So the model count is low. It's a very skirmish oriented game, and you can just throw, the armies at one another and just battle it out. Yeah. It has some neat stuff, right? Because you would roll your dice and get doubles and triples, and those would become things that you could use to do your special attacks. You had to power your special attacks by these dice you rolled at the beginning of the turn. And that was fun. It added another sense of depth to it. So yeah, all in all, I think it's a great game. Is it the most simplistic to get into? No. In all truthfulness, out of all the GW games, I think the easiest is Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
They really kind of I don't want to say dumbed down, that's a bad negative. I think that they made the rules very streamlined, and now they're moving a lot of that concept over to 40K.
Yeah.
Now, this is a bad question to ask me in particular because I don't play GW games very often.
But you've played them in extent, though, and seen a lot of change.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's
a lot of good to them.
Doctor says, what now? Are heavy bodies going to be sold in a set as well as singles?
Yeah.
Is the launch this week?
Possibly. We were working on it today, so we'll have more info on that as the week rolls on. It's still our goal.
Yeah. Yeah, AOS is pretty easy to learn now. Middle Earth strategy games also pretty decent. Right now, also.
The Lord of the Rings game is actually really good.
Frostgrave also. I've been really liking Frostgrave's rules. It seems like it's super easy to get into model-wise.
Frostgrave is great. If you're interested in GW games, though, it's off the table, right?
I guess that's true. Yes.
I wasn't going to go through the list of every game that's easier.
From
a what games are great to start with, Arena Rex, there's a ton of games that are great to start with that are easy to get into, but they may not be easy for you to find games to play with. GW is the most accessible game on the planet for wargaming, and I would suggest strongly that you start with a GW game. No matter what you hear, because unless you have a store locally to you that plays some other game a lot, and I do tell a lot of people when they get into wargaming for the first time to go check out a store that's close to you that you feel like you might frequent. See, number one, are the people cool? Yeah. Does it make you want to go and hang out with them? And if the answer to that is yes, then ask them, what tabletop war games do you guys play the most? And if they say 40K, buy into 40K. Because it doesn't matter how easy or hard a game is if nobody's playing it.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter how hard a game is if everyone's playing it. Because if everyone in your store is playing 40K and it's the hardest game in the world to learn, you will learn it easier than any other game. Why? Because you have friends that help you.
And you can practice.
Right? And you can get games.
That's the number one. You got to be able to play these games. Brayton says, one-page rules to rule them all. I like one-page rules.
It's so boring.
But it just, there's something, you have to really, here's the thing with one-page rules. You really got to be into the storytelling aspect more, right? if you're just looking to throw dice and put a good rule set around it, great. But like you gotta
It is a real strong rule set. It's fun.
Yeah, you need like a theme though. It needs a theme, right? In my opinion.
Well,
it's so
I think that's like BattleTech, because I'm a big fan of BattleTech.
Yeah.
But the one thing I will tell you is that with BattleTech, if you don't play with a scenario, then it's like it's boring as hell.
It's math.
Because you got to chew through so much armor. It's just not
Yeah.
fun. So play with a scenario. So yes, if you take one-page rules, make up a really cool scenario, it doesn't matter. A cool scenario in gameplay will help anybody play it. But what I'm saying for this particular person that's asking is that there is no easiest game to get into if nobody in your area is playing it. Because right now, literally going and finding somebody at one of our stores that's playing a one-page rules game is nearly impossible. They don't happen socially yet because you can't sell anything in the store, so stores don't support it, and that's going to cause it to never gain traction. Now, they have a Kickstarter going, which kudos to them. They have their first physical product going on, which is you can buy miniatures in their game. It's a 2-player starter set, and that seems like a really good way to go. I think they've realized that the stores at retail and the social structure of gaming doesn't support you because there's no money to be made by offering your product, then nobody will survive. It just won't. Because if it's only played in mom's basement or at your house on Friday nights, then you'll have a group of people that enjoy it. It will never be commercially viable. You'll never go to a tournament that's worthwhile. Those things just don't exist past the point of awesome, like, this is really cool, you should try it. Because they just don't gain legs. There's not enough there. The emotional attachment is much less. And that's a struggle that all the 3D printed stuff is going to have to go through, right? Is that if you don't have a value associated with it, then people tend to like, nah. There's a pride you take in painting up your ridiculous army for 40K. Bringing your Forge World
I'm totally into
Storm
that.
Eagle to the table in a 30K game. And you're like, oh, geez, that's a $1,200 model.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, are you insane? And it's like, yes, and I'm here for it, right? I love it. I love seeing this thing. Let's blow it out of the sky. I get no more pleasure than destroying $1,200 models, right? Not really destroying, but by blowing them up in game.
Sure.
But there's a whole world based around that. And I'm not a fanboy or supporter of any company except for the ones that make models that you paint, you know, for obvious reasons. But I think at the end of the day, it's really finding the social group you feel comfortable in, and if you already have it, great. Play the game that, or introduce a game into your social group that you think people are going to love and drive it. That could be one-page rules, it could be Malifaux, it could be whatever you want.
Yeah.
If you're new to hobbying, which a lot of people are, and you're new to a group of friends that hobby, you don't have a big group of friends that are playing games and hanging out all the time, go to the store, do some investigation, ask the question, what's the most played? What's the top 3 games you guys play here? And maybe it's Bolt Action, Flames of War, and 40K, right? And now you have 3 choices. Go hang out on a day when they're playing those games. Go back 3 days if they play them on 3 days, and go see which one appeals to you more. And then jump in with that group that you think is very friendly. I've done that a lot of times in my life because I've moved around a lot, and I played a lot of games, and I never went into an environment, you know, saying, I got to play this. When I moved to Phoenix, the biggest, coolest scene of people that I met initially was for Infinity. And so I picked up Infinity. I already had some models. I hadn't really done a whole lot with it. I just thought the models were kind of cool. And when I moved here and found out there was the guys from the big Infinity podcast at the time, which is no longer around, but they were here. Tom and Kip were here. And they ran events every weekend and had a game night every week on like Wednesdays or Tuesdays or something. And I found that out and I was like, I'm in. So I bought Infinity models, set it up, had them teach me.
Big incentive.
Infinity's not an easy game to play, but it was really easy when you had everybody around you was excited to play it. It was so much because you get invested in the rules. So I did. I played it until those guys kind of dropped off. The game kind of dropped off. And then I was like, oh, well, I'll play something else. And then I split it up between Age of Sigmar and War Machine. And the War Machine community here was really great. So I chose War Machine and played War Machine for years. So yeah, I practice what I preach in that. It's less about the game. It's more about the social aspect and having fun, because every game can be fun and exciting if you got the right people around you.
Yeah, and that's what everybody's saying here. Yeah, if you find a game that your store plays and hop in, right?
Sir Blame, that's awesome. Are they also 3D printing? Because I find that odd. The only stores I've talked to, and we have a big retail network, but the only stores I've talked to that are excited about either one of those are the ones that have 3D printing as a side business. Because otherwise, it's like shooting yourself in the foot. Because there's way more store owners that are not excited about either of those games, because the ability, people come in and use their tables and their terrain and their air conditioning and everything else, and they make no money on it.
Yeah.
And there is just a commercial aspect to that that's really tough to deal with. So I tell people that I know, it's like, hey, have you thought about selling sandwiches and having food or drinks in your store so that you're making money and it doesn't matter where people buy their models and all that? But of course, that's not what everybody wants to do.
Source, there's something to be said for being the one that starts a community, though.
100%. If that's wired into your being, then I'm a big fan of that. Starting to get people excited about a game is great. It's also a huge letdown when it fails. So you just have to be prepared for it.
Yeah.
I've done a lot. I champion a lot of games, done a lot of things where I get people excited about the game. Even around here, I get people excited about games. And then, when it waxes and wanes, it just realize that's what'll happen. Don't tie yourself to it, and if it doesn't get as much steam as you wanted to, don't be bummed out, because then you might not champion the next game you're really excited about. And I think the goal is really to just find a way to stay excited about it, right?
100%. Yeah, I'm going off of that. You do have to put in the work if you're going to play these games, right? And if you're wanting to start something, you gotta put in the work and get other people hyped.
It's tough too, right? It's tough. It's easy if you can find a store. I would say, again, going and talking to your local store and finding a store owner who is excited to give you some table time, who might, even if they don't have that game, like say you go to a store right now and you want to champion Malifaux, and they don't sell Malifaux, or Bolt Action was my thing, because none of the stores really had a great experience with Bolt Action, right? It's hard to get, hard to keep stock, not a lot of people interested in it. But if you go and start playing it and you say, hey, can you find a distributor that has it and place special orders for the crew here on a weekly basis, then we'll come in, I'll bring my armies, we'll play it on Sunday with some people, and then if we get them excited, can you order the box sets and then bring them in? And they were like, oh yeah, sure, I'll order anything special order if I can get it from distribution. And so a lot of people bought their armies, waited a week, got the army, had fun, started playing. So yeah, you can do that too, even when it's not games they have on the shelf. So you may not see it, but they still might be willing to talk to you about it and have some fun with it, which I think is great.
Yeah. Moral of the story: if you want to do something, you got to do it.
Communicate. Find people that are like-minded.
jazzed.
There's a lot of people just like you that are excited to do stuff, and you don't have to hunt very far to find them.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to mix these two colors first.
Doing some highlights.
I'm moving into the yellowishness of the gold, right?
Oh yeah.
And I'm gonna go with the yellow green and the yellow ochre as a combo mix first. I think yellow ochre, while not being the brightest of yellows, can still get really garish really quick if you're not careful.
Why is he painting orc skin on this armor? Hey, it is a non-metallic gold workup there, Source.
It
know
is
better.
orc skin.
It is orc skin.
Filthy heretics. Maybe he's an Ordo Xenos guy and he's trying to blend in.
Yeah. Michael says, where my son lives in Portland, there's a pub that is serious about gaming. Several nights are tabletop and are fewer card games with a couple tables for tabletops. Yeah, you got to really, especially with like a store like that. Portland, I wouldn't be surprised. They're big board gamers up there. I have a couple friends, and it's a big thing. But yeah, you have to create the community sometimes, which takes a lot of work. So there's that too. 40K and GW is just kind of the work's already done for you when it comes to the games, right? Because people
it's like I said, it's the one where no matter where you travel, you can take your 40K army and be playing.
You could find a game store down the street if you just Googled it.
Because it's the big moneymaker. And so the store owners are well behind it. And, there's a ton of people that know about it. It doesn't make it the best game by any means, right? And I'm by no means a 40K or AOS fanboy. There's been times where I really enjoyed them. When Chris and his gang first got involved with Monument Hobbies, they were doing their Empty Wallets channel on YouTube, and we're talking AOS all the time, and it got me interested in AOS. Their energy carried over to me. I got really into AOS and played for a while, and I really enjoyed it. And then it stops being enjoyable for whatever reason because a new edition comes out or they change the rules for your army, and you just have to be, you have to understand. I'm a hobbyist first.
Well, my enjoyment totally changed. It totally went over to the painting of the models and the models themselves and the theme of the army. It really changed. Obviously, at the beginning, I did not care about painting. Now I'm on the opposite side of that. It's like, oh, well, I'll play 40K because I like the models, right? I'll play this army because on the table, I think the theme will look cool, and I want to paint that theme. Even if it's just once, it doesn't matter, right? I've painted my fully painted armies only a couple times in AOS, really. Well, I shouldn't say that. My first original painted armies, but but when you want to play them, they're there and ready to go.
Yeah, it's an interesting world, right? Because it's rule of cool, and I'm unabashedly saying don't be shy about being okay with that, right? If you don't think a game is cool, don't feel like you got to. I know a lot of people that don't like sci-fi and would much rather play fantasy games because the models look cooler.
Yeah.
Or the idea of fantasy is cooler to them than, people running around with laser guns. Fine. You don't have to play 40K by any means, even if it's the most played game in your area. Champion something different. One of the cool things that I've noticed in all my years of being in this industry is that when you go to a store and you see people having fun on the table, playing whatever the game is, people will go over there and see what's up.
Yep.
Right?
100%.
It turns out the one thing we all share in common, we all like to have fun. Might have different ideas of what fun is.
Oh, I don't do that.
Yeah, Chris doesn't do
no
fun.
more fun.
So Chris doesn't do fun anymore.
I'm the enemy of fun.
He boycotts fun. He is the enemy of fun. As a
I
matter
am
of
the
fact,
enemy
he's
of fun.
going to tell us about that here in about 45 minutes.
45 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, but to your point, it's very true. That is very true.
So go have fun on the table, and you'll be surprised at how many people you find that will share that fun with you and be interested in playing. Now, I've said, a lot of people have asked over the years, like, hey, what would you do if you wanted, nobody's in your area playing game X, and you really want to play it? What would you do? And I'm like, well, I would build 2 armies, right, so that I could play with somebody, and I would go to my local store with those 2 armies painted, can't do unpainted, right? Take those 2 painted armies to the store with a friend of mine, and then I would start playing.
Yeah.
And I would do that over and over with those same 2 armies if my friend didn't have his own, right? Yeah. And I would continue to play it, and you'd be surprised that it doesn't take you very long to get traction to have other people want to play it. And I've done that with games that the store didn't carry, like I mentioned. And that, until they saw 10 people get together and have fun with it, then all of a sudden they were like, well, maybe we'll bring that in. Sometimes a store owner, if they like playing games, will come over and be like, how does this game play? Show me. And then you sell it to the store owner. And then they start playing it. And then they want to get it. I mean, hell, we had a Games U store here, that a store called Games U. And the owner, Jeff, would get interested in whatever game other people are having a lot of fun with because he just wanted to have fun. And so we'd all get together and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
If enough people are doing it, peer pressure is an amazing thing.
That's right.
Okay, so now we're starting to build up our shine on things like the cylinder of the leg. So again, with this blend of yellow ochre and yellow green, I'm just taking a light glaze and working it out of the shadows up over to the highlight spot. Put a little bit of a secondary highlight on the inside of the shin here. More water on my brush so that the paint is more see-through. Cylinders reflect in long vertical reflections down the length of the cylinder. So we just start setting that up. It doesn't have to be a perfect blend because we're still early in the stages of setting up our color. It's so funny moving around these shapes because I have painted these shapes so many times in my life.
Yeah.
These old Space Marines. It's so fun and yet exhausting if you do it over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, after a long time.
But it's been a long time. I haven't painted a Space Marine that felt like this in a long time.
When was the last time, if you had to guess?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I guess you could say that even the modern Space Marines still have a lot of these familiar shapes to them, so it doesn't feel that different. Even the Primaris have still got the big bell shaped, greaves and such. But I think it's just the fact that it's this big bulky metal model and it just feels so similar.
Aaron says, are you guys not a fan of blending with airbrush towards the end?
Sure. What makes you say not?
Yeah, you did that with the...
I've shown that quite a bit.
The dead horse, technically, right?
Yep. Yeah, with a filter. We did a color filter
yeah.
to blend the undead horse flesh towards the end as kind of an overpaint. But no, I love it as a technique. It is a technique that is a little daunting for people as they learn airbrushing, so it's more advanced.
Yeah.
You have to, number one, be good working in close with the airbrush because it can't afford you the ability to get overspray on things because obviously you're doing it at a time where you've already got the model done or close to done. But it is a fantastic blending tool. We talk about it all the time. The airbrush in general is a fantastic way to blend later in the model. A lot of people think of it as a tool where they're really just thinking in terms of base coating and such, which it's also fantastic for. But the ability to get good with working in close and doing more detailed work will open up a world where the airbrush can be an amazing tool. It's one of the reasons why I'm allowed to, basically paint so heavy-handed or open with my textures.
Yeah.
I kind of sketch more because I can take the airbrush and do my late-game blending with it. I'm by no means doing nice blends here, so I could do it with this model. This model's super small, so it wouldn't benefit as much except on like the shoulders maybe. But definitely a good technique to learn if you've got the wherewithal to invest in airbrushing that way. I suggest it highly.
Grace's War Machine's press game program. It was officially supported group of volunteers that was backbone of the community for War Machine.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess the moral of the story is that it's like, you have to build a community, see what the community is doing, and then either if there's not one that exists, you got to really try and maybe give yourself like a due date to try it or a timeline. If you can't find anybody in your area, then, you tried. Yeah,
the loss of street teams for games was a little rough. That all came from the Wizards of the Coast nonsense, I think, where their judges banded together and demanded like insurance benefits and things like that because they considered themselves to be employees, and that lawsuit made a lot of other game companies drop their street team programs because they couldn't afford to pay them as employees.
Oh, right.
These are much smaller companies than Wizards of the Coast. And I don't know what the right answer is in all of that. I think that, compensation is something that's agreed upon between two parties. But that made it to where it was very, very difficult to get people out there. Malifaux had the henchman program. That's how I learned to play Malifaux, was through a local henchman. And was gracious. Boy, it was such a tremendous way to get into a game because you had somebody who was basically carrying the mantle for the company in your locale and was excited to run little tournaments or get-togethers or whatever. And that was great. And to see all that go goodbye was like, what a bummer.
Aaron says, didn't mean to say you didn't. Oh, about the airbrush. Sorry. No sorry.
Oh, I didn't take it that way at all.
Yeah. I've been watching a lot of Sergio Calvo, and he blends at the end with like 95% water and thinner, and then like 5% paint.
Yep. A lot of the Spaniards do that. It is one of the techniques that is kind of their secret sauce, is that they sketch onto the model and then use the airbrush as a finisher. It gives them really, really smooth blends at the end, but it is a time-consuming thing. You will not find even Sergio telling you the full story. Like, that is not something that happens in one pass with the airbrush.
Oh, sure. And videos are, just taken with a grain of salt. Reels are
the video's
awesome
like,
and fun.
and then finish the damn out.
Yeah, but there's so much work that goes in. Like, that's the struggle here, right? Like, how do you make the Tonia El Tigre video that we did, right? How do you make that 60 seconds?
Yeah,
without
true.
the process. There's just some of these mediums that are it's just hard to understand if you don't see the full thing. That's why when we do this, we have the VODs as the backup because that's where we're filming most of this. So you always can see the start to finish progression, essentially.
Yeah.
The more is better in my opinion, but it's a hard balance.
It's tough.
Especially when you want the short form content, which is totally justified too. Right?
Yeah, a lot of people want it want it in bite-sized chunks.
Yeah.
But when the technique you're trying to teach, like airbrush filtering is not a bite-sized technique. It is something that needs a lot of explanation for the person that's never done it, because it isn't easy, right? It isn't easy teaching somebody to airbrush close to the model. It's not how you do it. It's not how you grew up learning airbrush, right? And so doing that fine detail, especially when you're doing it at, like you said, 90% dilution on the paint, that's tough for lots of people to handle, because now the paint is less controllable on the model, right? It spider webs.
Dilution is
tough. It's not that much, because you wouldn't get enough pigment to really make it but it's well over into like the 70-80% dilution, probably.
Very thin, essentially.
Super thin, yeah. And you're having to then layer that up, and that takes a lot of practice. Yeah. But when you get it, it is super satisfying, because, like I said, how do you paint fast and paint good? That's one of the biggest ways. You learn to paint fast because your brush strokes can be more erratic as you're painting. You don't have to worry about superfine blending as you go, because your airbrush is going to be able to come in and cover a lot of that up. So the line work and things like that, you can be a little bit more free with, and that is, like I said, it's very freeing, to reuse the word, liberating, so to speak, because you can just not color on the model. A lot of people will just block it in. Then you have crazy people like Mashik, who makes it look like he finishes with an airbrush and never touches the dang thing. So he just goes in and does the same hard blocking in, and then goes and glazes between all of his blocks of colors for infinite amount of hours. And that's great. He has a great style that people like, and is really great, and you can reproduce it with just a lot of patience. You need that same type of patience with the airbrush, just a different tool. And it does go quicker, the airbrush. No matter how good you are, glazing at that level is going to be a time-consuming thing. We're just working on getting those. I am doing some blending here, but pop in real close.
Yeah.
You can see my blends are really rough, right?
This model has a lot of character.
It does. It's also that pockmarked metal, so it has a texture to the surface already.
I was just about to say, so talk about the texture. Do you change, like, there's the texture of the model, right?
Yeah, the metal has a little bit of a texture to it. It's not super smooth like the plastics would be.
You change anything up with that, or not really?
Huh.
Same thing.
You mean like in how you paint?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You might not go and do as much like texturing with the brush, because it might overdo it. Or you might hide the texture on the model with texture from the brush. Right? You have options. The metal's fairly porous, so sometimes it can be very noticeable. The worse the job on the mold was, the more you can tell. And you might get models in the same box that, some of them look great and some of them have a ton of texture that you're like, what the heck is going on here?
Pizza Boy says, metal has so much character, I find myself having to take each model as I get to them. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it and hate it at the same time.
Is it Hector's asking, is it harder on the brushes, question mark?
Nah, surface is surface. I don't see any reality to it, like harming a brush or making it harder to paint or anything like that. I think, like I said, the only thing is handling the model is a little rougher. You got to be a little bit more delicate, because your fingers will rub paint off all the sharp edges.
Orky Fishmeat just said, I made some metal minis at home. Came out good.
Nice.
That's cool. Orky, I know you're a blender guy, so did you make your own molds?
Yeah, are you spin casting? Did you have a spin machine, or are you literally just pour molding? Yeah, like sand cast aluminum type pouring just into a mold and then busting the mold off and cleaning all the
burrs and stuff.
Very interesting. Now you're speaking to my inner.
No, I did a pour with some molds I ordered.
Cool.
That is cool. Pour, yeah.
Very, very cool. Much respect. That's not an easy thing to do.
Pizza
What are
Boy,
you using for your melting apparatus?
Yeah.
You have a kiln for that, or how you keeping moisture out of your mold? Well, I'm assuming if you bought the mold, then the mold isn't like sand or anything. You don't have to worry about that. It can be very explosive.
And we're not talking just about fun.
No, if you have, whatever your mold is, if it's wet.
I thought it was easy. Got the stuff of Micromark.
Okay, cool.
Oh, got the stuff off Micromark. Okay. Yes, Papa Chicken says there's something nice about the heft of the metal minis. Old school Baltic feels nice in the hand. I would agree. These minis feel heavy, and they feel substantial in the hand for sure. That's why
we were
I like
talking
them.
about. They're like home defense. Put them in a sock.
Yeah, dude.
And defend your home.
I couldn't imagine a Thunderhawk that's all metal. That's what you're saying earlier?
We used to joke that the dreadnoughts, that's what they were really built for. You weren't supposed to build them. You were just supposed to put all the pieces in a sock and smack people with them.
Mo says dreadnought in a sock made you feel safe. Yeah.
Dreadnought in a sock. He is not lying.
Nothing feels quite like dropping a large metal Chaos Mini on bare toes.
Oh my God. Those pointy bits.
Crazy.
Jesus.
Could you imagine? It's just
I've drawn blood dropping it on my foot.
Dropping pure nails on your foot.
It literally is. It's insane. Some of those models with their big spikes and stuff. You drop it and it didn't take more than about 3 foot for it to start tearing flesh when it hit the ground.
Orky Fish Me says, I got the molds from the Duncan Company. Okay. That be a sock knot? Yeah, 100%.
Sock knot. I like that.
A grip of that. That's good.
No, sock knot. Was that not appropriate? I felt like that was what that was for.
I guess so.
No, sock knot.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. I'll give you that one.
All right. Now we'll move to pure yellow ochre. Need more. Again, bing. You can see the mix with the yellow green. It was about 50-50. Unscientific 50-50. I can't prove that being 50-50.
Northrek says, the day you realize you can sharpen the sword edges on metal minis is a complicated emotion. That's funny.
You used to have to, inadvertently, you would take the sword, and the swords came where they were big, chunky, flat, and the edge of the sword was squared off. So we would take our files and file them because you didn't want to paint a sword edge that had a big, flat portion on it.
Yeah.
Here's one right here. I don't know if this is going to register on the screen, but that doesn't go to a point at all.
Oh,
that spear doesn't go to a point at all. It's blunt.
We could
Look
tell.
how blunt that is. So we would take it and file them because you didn't want to paint it and have that, especially if you're using a wash, because having that rectangular edge, that big flat spot where the blade would be, would capture color when you do a wash on it. So we would take the files and file them off, and then you'd chop your finger off and realize that might not have been the best idea. But very, 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 very aware of that being a thing. Appealing to my old school memory of modeling. The thing that I hated the most about metal models was not, because that's all we had for the longest time, so we didn't know any better. There were some plastics and stuff, of course, too, but for the most part, you had metal. And in doing the metal models, it was just like, okay, that's what we have to work with. But when you got into converting, all of a sudden it was like, oh, this sucks.
Converting old metal models, I imagine, is a not a fun time.
It sucks. It's easy to kit bash metal to some extent. You just glue more parts on it.
Yeah.
But if what you wanted to do was alter it, it was jeweler saw, files, drills, and lots of anguish.
Yeah. That would be very inconvenient.
Lots and lots of anguish, people. Not fun.
Mo says pinning metal. Metal sucked too.
Oh yeah, pinning metal was always atrocious. I would invest in whatever insert name of paperclip company here. Because the best pinning in the world is paper clips. You just take them and bend the paper clip straight, cut off a length of paper clip, and that would be your pin. Finding ways to drill matching holes in the piece so it lined up when you put it together was always a pain in the butt because the pieces didn't fit very well. So you'd put the pin in one side of like the arm socket, and then you would put a little spot of paint on it, and then put the arm on there, hoping you nailed it just right, so it would put a dot of paint on the other side, and you drill that hole right there so you could line it up. It's pain in the butt.
Okay.
Pain in the butt. The amount of times where you would drill incorrectly, and then you put it on, the arm would be like shifted off weird, and you'd have to be like, God dang it, because now you couldn't drill another hole. So bad. Oh, these are the good old days, right?
The good old
now
days.
You just cut the plastic and put some new piece of plastic on it and glue it. You guys don't even know how good you got it, all you complaining kids.
Oh my gosh. You know what? Speaking of complaining kids.
Welcome, everyone.
Welcome in, everybody.
Also not a good segue, Chris.
We are nearing the end of our stream.
What? Shut up. I won't stand for it. I still have 30 minutes.
No, you have 20 minutes.
I have 30 minutes according to a Jason clock.
Whoa, adjacent clock. I get it. Is it right next to you?
I didn't say adjacent.
I know I did.
Kill me, chat.
May the 9th before Christmas.
May thy 9th chip and shatter.
May you all have a great time watching us paint up some Old Hammer here. We're going to be painting up Old Hammer this week. Jason will not be here on Wednesday, so we're going to have Jordan painting up some Star Wars stuff with some AMP paints, but
I'm taking a day off. I just need to throw that in there. It's so rare.
I was going to take a day off because Jason was taking a day off, but then I'm like, you know what?
You should.
I was thinking about it.
Chat, we may just not be here on Wednesday.
We may not be here. We'll see.
I think you should, Chris.
You think so?
I think I can afford you to take a day off. If I'm going to take a day off, then you should take a day off. It's like the only time you don't have to be on stream.
Hurry! We'll see. But we're gonna be painting
and
up
then
some
you
Old
and
Hammer.
I can go hang out and do something fun.
There you go. You're taking a day off. Like you're just chilling. Nice.
I don't even have a plan, Chris. I just, you know what, chat? I'm not afraid. I'm not ashamed to admit this to you, chat. I looked at my calendar, and Tuesday and Wednesday of this week had nothing on them. Every day of the week, I have an hour from 1 to 2 right before the stream that says "Do Not Disturb." It never works, but I put it on there. And that's the only thing that was on my calendar for Tuesday and Wednesday. And in my brain, I said, I should take those 2 days off.
You good.
The only thing that keeps me from doing that is stream.
So
I only took Wednesday because I don't want to deprive you too much.
Well, and here's the thing. We're getting better. You guys can all see our social posts where we tell you we also tell you the stream schedule now. So, and if you haven't seen that, you can see that on YouTube posts. You see it on Facebook and Instagram. So keep an eye out for those. But we're going to be painting some Old Hammer for this week. Jason and I were talking about what can we do. And I thought some Old Hammer would be kind of fun. These are fun old models.
I'm loving it.
Now
I am blending. Now I am doing glazed blending with the yellow ochre, right? And I'm pulling that shine over on this side for no good reason other than that makes sense to me. I'm matching the helmet that way and all this stuff. This is where I start picking my lighting direction. I haven't done anything about lighting direction until now. And now we start picking that and putting the brightness on there. So we start to see where and how our shine is going to wind up looking.
Jason, treat yourself.
I don't even know what I'm going to do. Play video games all day. I don't know.
That's great.
We'll see. I should have done Tuesday because that's when Jen works from home. So she'll be mad at me.
Pop chicken. I would somehow at some point I got to take my Adepticon days off.
Took one, didn't you?
I did? I don't think so, actually. I took some half days. That's what I had. I had some appointments that I needed to do.
Yeah, you definitely got to do that, man. You got to take care of yourself.
Play some Oblivion Remastered, says Aaron.
I am not a fan. I played Oblivion on PlayStation when it first came out.
You played the OG.
And I have to say, we had a conversation about that here. I thought it was great. I think it is exceptionally lazy to have your studio rely on you doing a repress of an old deal. And now they say they're going to do Fallout New Vegas. It's like, oh, great. We've run out of ideas of our own, so we're going to go back to our old ideas and redo it again. I'm not a fan. I don't mind it because there's new people being exposed to Oblivion. I think that's great. I just am not nostalgic for it, so it didn't do anything for me.
You were saying that,
and especially not from a studio that has churned out garbage like Starfield.
I don't know why they're doing that. They've got, I don't know.
It just shows that they've lost the ability to create anything of any value,
which is a bummer.
Because they're a great studio. They've done some great things.
Yeah, I'm honestly, if their new Elder Scrolls game comes out and it ain't good, I feel like they're done. In my opinion.
Yeah.
Truly, I
mean, that's true of like every game studio out there, which is a sad thing right now. Right? It's very hard to find any game studio that feels like they've invested in lots of upgrades over the years. I think they've gotten fat and lazy with the games that were successes and forgot why they were successes.
Yeah, and
that's my political statement for the day.
Yes, well, that's what I'm saying. If Elder Scrolls 6 doesn't turn out good, I think they're going downhill for sure. They can't. There's so much hype for that game. If it ain't good, and it's, look what Skyrim. People still playing Skyrim.
Yeah, well, the mod community has kept Skyrim going, but when you really look at it, like they've tried to keep Skyrim alive as a commercial success by just releasing it for a new platform every few years. And then they turn out something like Starfield, and it's like, wow, dude, that was horrible. It was funny. I when Starfield first came out, I got it. A big space game fan. Thought it would be great.
Well, it had a lot of hype.
A lot of hype. Well, yeah, they hadn't done anything worthwhile in a while, and so I was like excited for that. Space Skyrim might get me interested. Skyrim, it was too freeform for me. The story, it was just tough for me. I was not as huge a Skyrim fan as I wanted to be.
You weren't?
I wasn't. No, I played a lot of it, but I was not a fan.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's not.
I feel like that's up your alley.
You would think
the open world and doing your own deal.
I don't really like that.
Really?
I think it's late. I think open world is severely lazy. It makes your customer create the content. Yeah, and while I love for the game to be able to allow me to do that, it also needs to be able to carry content on its own, in my opinion.
Okay. No, that makes sense.
You need to be able to have a guiding light to play the game by, and then if your game gives me other stuff to do that allows me to go off when I don't want to feel linear on it, then I think that's great.
You get to play the new Doom game? It just came out.
No.
You're not a Doom guy?
No. I haven't been for a while. Doesn't mean I wouldn't check it out when it was super cheap or something years down the road. I never bought Doom Eternal.
I heard Doom Eternal was good. I heard that.
It's good. It's just like everything. It's just super repetitive. But then all those games are, I'm playing some old Destiny right now, Destiny 2, and it's the same repetitiveness. So I get it.
Yeah.
Bungie, boy, there's another studio that's making some big mistakes. They just got caught stealing somebody's artwork for their new game.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, dang. Full-on rip-off, some of the artwork in their new game still has the readable watermarks of the artist they took it from.
Yeah. Huh.
And they're blaming it on an artist that worked at their studio that submitted an idea board, and some of the ideas on the idea board supposedly got greenlit, and nobody checked them and did anything.
Oh, wow.
They literally just committed them to game, and the idea board included some direct rip-off from this poor artist on ArtStation.
Wow. Yikes.
And that artist ripped them a new hole, and the community's backing them as they should. You can't be $1 billion studio and steal people's artwork.
Yes, and Cannibals, Jason does like Noida.
Oh my God.
It's one of, Cannibal says, I feel like I remember Jason saying his favorite game was Noida.
Oh my God, Noida is so good. It's
pretty up there for you, isn't it?
Noida is so good. For what, one small team, if not just one guy made, in like, it's I always go back to the, Tony Stark made this with spare parts in a cave.
Yeah.
And it's like the best games right now are made by spare parts in a cave. It's so amazing.
Brandon was saying earlier, Expedition 33, we've been talking about that in here. Gabe loves that game.
Yeah, a lot of people here love it. Not my style of game. I'm not a big turn-based fan, even though it has a little bit more going for it. It's just not my style of game. I've looked at it because of all the uproar, and I see why people like it. The soundtrack is phenomenal. I love the art style. It's kind of fun and fresh, and I applaud the whole story. Just not a game that I'll get behind because I don't dig those kind of games.
Not into the combat either.
I like action combat more, and I'm not into timed parries. It's why Sekiro, wasn't great, even though I love all the FromSoft games. I'm like, they forced you to play a parry game, and I'm like, I don't like parrying.
Question for you.
Although Liza P felt pretty good in that regard.
Watching your video about Black Armor, you talked about last week, for some smaller models, would you generally skip some of the blending steps from the darker to brighter elements, right? Question mark?
You could, yeah. Yeah, generally the ticket is that as scale goes down, you subtract colors and blending steps. Right? Because you just don't have, being honest, you just don't have enough space to put all those colors, and the blends aren't really useful unless you've got a super steady hand for really small controlled brushstrokes. Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, like if this guy were bigger scale on a a dreadnought or something, I might use another color in here. Right? I might have started it with like black green or something like that instead. But on this scale, another color on here would be really hard to put in, right? Like my next color is going to be my shine highlight because I just don't have enough space to do anything else. What else are you going to do?
Yeah.
You run out of room real quick at this scale that we paint at. And so you have to be able to judge, okay, how much paint can I fit on this area? With number one, with my ability, because sometimes it's a matter of how you can control your brush to make small brush strokes to fit the paint on there. And sometimes it's just physics. It doesn't allow me to put any more paint on this, right? I've backed myself into a corner. It's all I can do. We call it painting into a corner. A lot of times you're looking at the model and judging like, okay, if I do this in 3 colors, I know I have enough space to get those 3 colors to look good on there. Because there's nothing worse than spending the time putting a color down and then you go to the next step and you cover it entirely because you misjudged the amount of space you had to do that.
Yep. Hopefully that answers your question there.
That was Chris's "I'm not listening" response.
No, Orky Fish just asked me about when am I starting my Earthworm Jim project. And I was just typing out, I have been storyboarding what it actually is going to look. I'm looking for the size of the base now for like what it's actually going to sit on, because I'm also thinking I might build the Lord of Change's Kairos, which is the 2-headed bird, because I really like how it looks, because I just like that. So I'm like, is Psycrow in my world a 2-headed bird? I'm thinking about that.
I mean, that's a neat story to tie the 2 universes together.
Right, like, because...
It could be fun.
Yeah. Plus, I'm that project. I've got a lot of my buddies right now, Philip and Chance and Jordan, they're all playing 40K. So now I'm like, oh, I should speed paint up my 40K orcs just to get them on the table. So I'm having all these distractions, Chad.
Remember where we talked about peer pressure earlier, Chad?
I know.
It's a bitch, isn't it?
Because but I was like, you know what? Maybe I just paint my orcs fast and be okay with it.
In red.
And just be
red
done.
Goes faster.
Right? So that's what I'm thinking. I might just paint them up quick. I'm going to do my 2 Morkanauts like I did my Stampa, where I just make them entirely rusted out and then noosh the crap out of them.
Yeah, that works.
And then just do orc war paint on them.
I love it.
That's what I'm thinking.
Orcs can be really easy, really fast, and still look fun.
Yeah.
Because they're one of those kind of like, I mean, Death Guard to some extent can live that way too. They can just be so weathered and nasty that it gets the whole thing across.
Tech Elf, I know I have too many projects. Here's the thing though. I've been trying to put paint on the model at least 3 times a week, even if it's small.
I applaud you for that.
I
That's
just keep
awesome.
it on the table now at home, even if it's for 10 minutes and I'm just not wanting to get super into it. I have been keeping it on the side. Rattle can speed paint your orcs on stream. I maybe. We'll see.
Keep pushing him, chat. It won't happen if you
here's
don't
the
push.
thing. If we have the opportunities, I think, I'm not saying that I'm a good painter, but when we have Jason and Jordan in house, I want you guys to learn something rather than me just trying to get my project
That is
done.
such a lame answer.
What?
Because you know what
It's
helps,
so true.
You know what helps people learn a lot?
What's that?
Is somebody who is of very similar capability
Okay. Yeah.
being led. We have
That's
over the
true.
years been told that some of the best content we ever did was when Jen painted her first couple of minis and I sat and held her hand and helped her understand why we do what we do, what would be cool. She asked a bunch of questions on what color choices, how did you put the color on the model.
That's true.
Those
Okay.
things work really great because they're the questions that are in everybody's head that we will forget to answer. Right? I will not necessarily talk about them because I already have been doing it for so long that I'll just be like, oh yeah, you should know that this is what I'm doing. This is what's going through my head. And it's not always
That's true.
really low-hanging fruit for everybody. So never think that what you've got going on isn't really important for people because everybody's journey is different but similar.
Yeah.
We've all been at that point where we're new but maybe not new enough to have, super simple questions. We may be at the stage where we don't even know what questions to ask because we're like, well, I kind of am at a stage where I feel like I'm supposed to know it all.
Yeah, that's
I've been painting for a few
point.
years, and I still am having struggles with this stuff like color choice or blending and getting my blends smoother or stippling or whatever it is we talk about. So there is always an opportunity.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I'll think about it.
Which is still a no, Chad.
No,
I'm trying hard. I'm pushing
here we
for
go.
it, Chad. I want you to know
All
how
right.
much I love you, Chad. I am really trying.
Here we go. I have an idea. Because technically, right, we have...
That should be something you and I start doing like once a
should.
month is we have a Chris Paints Jason Guides.
Well, because here's the thing. We could do that on my Dreadnought for white armor. Because you did show us, and now I could just try to apply it too. Right? Like, hey, if I can recreate it, or... yeah, we could do that. We could do that. I take it all back.
Chat, you like how Chris sits here and says that we might be able to do that?
We'll do it.
Like he owns the company?
Yeah, we'll do it. Yeah, I'll consider it.
I'll put that up for consideration. I have lost so much power since we brought him on.
That's not true.
So much power.
It's collaboration. Law Dog. Yeah, it would be
here's the
very
lie.
helpful to see you, Chris, struggle with the problems we mortals have. Sometimes when Jason or Jordan just do it, still not entirely clear. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Law Dog. Yeah, we'll get into the rotation. How about that? And I'm not just saying that, because here's what we could do. Look at next week, so just so that everybody's on the same page. We got Old Hammer this week, right? Jason's going to be painting up some of the Old Hammer. And then Jason has only a half week next week, right? And then it's me and Jordan Thursday and Friday. So maybe Thursday and Friday I can paint, because then the following week we have Jordan the whole week, which we have something really fun planned out for that. So maybe those 2 days I'll paint, chat. Would that be helpful? Did I sound convincing enough?
That was a lot of rigmarole for him saying that he doesn't think he'll do it.
No, that way Jordan can answer your paint questions and teach me at the same time. There it is. Done. We sold. But besides that, when Jason gets back, we could totally plan out some of that kind of content too, though. Where you give
I think
me
it'd be great.
Yeah, give me the pointers.
Like I said, people really loved watching Jen go through the motions and have instruction.
Oh my gosh. This just came to me. I think you should really show and watch me do some non-metallic metal.
Oh,
I have never done that before.
that's one of the things that was one of the biggest responses is when Jen did her first non-metallic.
Yeah, that is for sure gonna go down.
Now you heard it. Hold it to him, or hold him to it, chat.
Beginner does non-metallic metal. or first time non-metallic metal.
People will say you're lying that you've done it more, because by the time we get done, if I'm helping you,
Which would be good
You'll nail
content
it.
for people.
you'll nail it.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, Jen is an awesome painter.
Jen is tremendous. Like, legitimately tremendous painter. Her meticulousness, her meticulous nature, because she is a repetitive task person. She can do it to the point where it makes my mind numb, right? She just loves the repetitive stuff. And so for her, going in and mixing two colors and then blending them together on the model is like heaven.
That's cool.
And for me, I'm like, can we be done with this already?
Yeah.
Because I'm the kind of person that once I see the color on the model, I'm like, yep, that's the right color. And then I just want to snap my fingers and have it be done. The process of putting it on over and over and over again is where I sometimes feel like I don't need this anymore. You know, it's like, this looks great. Can we stop now?
If it doesn't happen, I'm gonna spam your email. Okay.
You should.
Oh, yeah. I think that would actually be...
I think these would be great things, chat.
I also want to make sure, too, just like in general, is that we are having something, especially now how we have the stream format, that we get good stuff for you. So I think that would be good. We'll plan it out.
I'm excited for it. Of course, I have to learn how to run the production desk, which he still has not taught me.
It is way more simple than it used to be. I'll send you a video. Or just teach you. Hit this button and do that thing. And you can sit in my bouncy chair.
I might have to grab one of the chairs from the conference room, but yes.
Yeah. Okay, chat. We have some plans. We got Old Hammer this week. Old Hammer some next week. Maybe I paint something on Thursday and Friday for you. I actually, and this is not a joke, and I would like to do this legit. After Jason and I were talking last week, I think I would like to stipple brush Smaug with the DD3, right?
Yeah.
And do some smudge style brushing.
Yeah. Could be cool.
I did that with my Rodigus model and loved it, how it came out with our DD3. All I did was smudge brush it. And it's one of my favorite models I've ever painted. Was the Great Unclean one. And done with it. Which is how I would paint that, because I just like that technique.
Yep.
Because it's fun. Especially for big models, because you feel like you're getting a lot of traction early.
Well, and big models that are textured type models, right?
Yeah.
Dragon skin.
Yeah, that would actually make sense
trees,
for scales. Yep.
You know, anything like that, I think. Rodigus, you know, with that kind of weird, nurgly texture stuff.
Yeah.
I think all of that is great. Those work really well.
Smudge brush, question mark from Aaron. It's kind of like, is that the technique that I'm talking about?
It's using a dome dry brush to paint with wet paint.
Yeah.
So it's like smudge. I call it smudge blending, because you're using the dome dry brush to kind of push paint on in a stippling manner. But because so much paint hits the surface, because it's such a big round brush, that you actually get good color blending.
Yeah.
You know, you couldn't do it with like a flat dry brush. That wouldn't work. But with a dome dry brush, you get some really cool. So if we painted the whole side of a Ultramarines tank, where I showed you could paint an entire tank one time with dry brush.
It's on the whiteboard, everybody. There you
If
go.
you watch any of Artist Opus stuff, they'll show you how to use the dry brushes to do more traditional painting. Like you can paint a whole model if you go sit with that team, you know, and that's what they're doing. They're smudge brushing. It's using what we traditionally call a dry brush, but it's not dry brushing.
Just using a bigger brush with that technique, essentially. So anyway, I've done that before. It's actually, I really like it. Honestly, I just don't have big models that I do it on. I did it on my Stampa. I'm gonna do it on my Morkanauts, right? I'm gonna do it on Smaug. So anyway,
yeah, you see us do it when we do like the underpainting for rusty metal, like rusty metallic.
That's why I do it.
We do that same thing.
Mm-hmm. I painted a lot of my Stampa actually on stream. Yeah. If you go back in our VODs.
Well, that's actually true, right?
Actually, I painted, if you go back 2 years, you will see me paint a majority of the Stampa smudge brush, by the way. Just a little Easter egg for you. Because that was when Gabe and I were on stream for a couple days when you both were out of town. Or something. I wasn't even working here. But anyway, speaking of not working here.
No.
Jason's 401.
No way, dude.
We're in
Seriously,
overtime
I am
now.
having so much fun, dude. I am
This is
like
a
in
cool
another
model.
I'm in another world with this thing. It's so great.
It's really coming together.
It's been a lot of fun.
It
Hopefully
looks
you
cool.
You can see kind of our non-metallic taking effect, right? As we start setting up some of the contrast for the shine, you can see it on the back
Oh, that's super cool.
plate, right? Underneath on the vent area, and then some on the front, like the greave down low is just
Yeah.
the
it's
stuff,
really
the calm
good.
before the storm, because next with the pale yellow, it's literally going to be like bazow.
No, paint liquor, mold smog, and then gold pour for the real detail. No, I've actually. It's funny you mentioned that paint liquor. I am gonna paint him. The underbelly, I am going to paint gold with like stippling a little bit, or put like light stippling on, like coins on his belly.
Yeah,
because that's how he was in the book. Where most of his underbelly actually had gold coins and jewels on it because he just laid there for years. So it's like it literally in his skin.
lazy bastard.
Yeah, literally just sat there.
And then he wonders why he gets shot and dies.
Yeah.
It's like not exercising, lethargic, didn't get your steps in. What the hell's going on with this thing?
Yeah,
All right.
looking good.
Yep. All right. Cool. There we go.
Nice.
Pick it back up tomorrow. Turn it into metal. Paint the other stuff. You're gonna do red shoulder plates.
I'm actually excited to see the skin work up on this guy.
Yeah, he's got a lot, right? He's got
Yeah.
a big receding forehead and some hair that we could do
He's
as
got
gray.
he's got a good face for painting skin.
He's got an
actually.
amazingly huge head.
That's what I was saying. It's kind of a nice.
These are the old Space Marines that had no abdomen. They literally were crotch to chest to head. All the old Space Marines, it took me a while to, as I'm staring at them, I'm going, I love these things, but there's just something off anatomically that really disturbs me, and it's that they don't have from this area under the chest to the crotch. They don't have their abdomen, their belly.
Yeah.
They don't have one.
Wait, put it up again. Let me see.
Yeah, they don't have a belly.
Oh, dang.
Like his pecs would be where the belt buckle is, and then it's his crotch.
That's true. I didn't even recognize
There's
that.
no belly. Like, just anatomically, that was the reason they were so bad for so many years, and that's what GW fixed with Primaris. The only reason Primaris are bigger is because they now have an abdomen. Look at that. The only scale difference, other than a little bit of girth on the legs and stuff, is that they now have a chest and a belly.
Interesting.
See those two plates in the belly area?
Uh-huh.
That old
They gave them
Space
a
Marines
belly.
never had that. They had the chest plate into the belt buckle done.
That's hilarious, actually.
I always wondered, like, I wish I could go back in time and talk to the sculptor. Like, did he have no clue about human anatomy?
No clue.
Or was that something that was just given to him as a design? Anthropophagy.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Just making words up now.
Too many projects. Too many projects, too little time.
Game Daily says Jason just said bazow, and that wasn't something Chris made up. No,
it was.
it wasn't.
That was
But I
all
don't talk
Jason.
like Chris says.
You
I
don't-
can say bazow.
You're allowed?
Yeah.
I guess so.
Wad.
Uh-oh.
Always in the gutter, Wad.
Oh.
Always in the gutter. New technology developed that sets the Primaris Marines apart. Intestines, yes. And a belly button, maybe. Who knows? Everybody, check out the links Chris is putting in chat. While he does that, I'll tell you that we stream from Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Everybody knows that, except for possibly the new people. And if you're new here, please hit the follow button if you're over on Twitch, or the subscribe button if you're over on YouTube so you get alerts when we go live. If you can't remember what time it is in Phoenix, Arizona all the time, right? We stream 2 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, Mountain Standard Time, Phoenix, Arizona.
Not an oil company.
Direct here from Monument HQ. We enjoy having you all around. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. You got to kick it off with some Old Hammer here today. We will continue on with our Old Hammer Inquisitor, and then we'll paint our Old Hammer Gray Knight after that. And then we have a surprise. It might just be Old Hammer for the foreseeable future because we have a land speeder too. We have an old metal land speeder.
That one's pretty old.
It's incredible.
It's
like I love it, and it's great. And we got to figure out how to paint it. So we'll do an Inquisitor, a Gray Knight, and then we'll pick a faction. Maybe we'll let chat. This is always dangerous, so I always reserve the right to overrule chat. But maybe we'll let chat pick what chapter they want me to paint.
You know what I could do? I'll take a picture. Hear me out. I'll take a picture of it, raw, the metal.
Mm-hmm.
I can put it on a YouTube poll, and you and I can pick 4 factions, and they can vote.
Yeah, we can pick like a handful of factions, maybe 4 or 6 factions. So they can't get stupid and make me paint something like Lamenters where I got to paint freaking checkerboards on everybody's shoulders.
I'll put it in the Discord, and I'll put the link to the poll, which is super easy.
I like it. Old Hammer chapters only. Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to remember, like back then they had a lot.
Yeah.
The second founding chapters, like, yeah, they had Howling Griffins and all sorts of stuff like that, too, so it's crazy stuff.
Cool. I like that.
As long as chat picks a loyalist faction, Jason will be happy. No heretics.
Space Wolves are going to be very popular.
No heretics. Yeah, we can do Space Wolves on those.
We could.
It's not very Space Wolfy. We have some Space Wolf Terminators, though, so we do have some old Space Wolves, right? We have an old Logan Grimnar.
We have a lot of Space Wolves.
We have the Old Hammer Logan Grimnar, so maybe we do that, too. It depends on how much... If you guys love us painting the Old Hammer, Kyle brought in a bunch of really cool stuff.
Yeah.
So we've got some of the old original Space Wolves from the 90s, and I could paint one of those, and that would handle everybody's Space Wolf thing. I think the Land Speeder's generic enough we could do anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, salamanders with black and yellow squiggles on it, something like that. I said no Lamenters, you Agrippa.
Yeah, I'll put a vote in there.
No heretics, damn it. Unless it's pre-heresy heretics. Do salamanders in my life as yours? We might. Green would be fun.
It would be cool.
We're going to paint gold non-metallic, silver non-metallic. If we paint Logan Grimnar or one of the Space Wolf Old Hammer guys, then we'll be painting a bluish gray. Yeah. On them, and then green would be really cool. We've painted enough Blood Angels that I think everybody gets it, so we don't have to do anything in red. Ultramarines we've painted. Green for salamanders would be really bitchin'. We could do that.
We could just do a green.
It'd be a lot of fun. The only salamander I've painted on stream in the last decade is the Forge World Primarch.
Yeah, we could do that. Salamanders could be cool. I like that.
I like it. An OG chapter poster and do random roll of all of them. There's too many, and some of them are horrible. I am not quartering a land speeder. I might actually be able to do that with those old ones. We could do a quartered panel on it. I don't know what that is. I don't know if like the vehicles got quartered like a vehicle.
I don't know what that is.
It means it's like a checkerboard. It's like one corner versus the other quarter.
Oh.
Quartered.
Oh, okay. I get what you're saying. Yes,
there's bisected where one half of the model's one color or one half is another color, and then quartered is like, top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right.
Because thank you for that raid. We're just about.
Hello, raiders. We are about to raid somebody else.
Yeah.
Sugar Rush says, worst time to raid. We are ending. Welcome, though. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the raid.
Yes, we appreciate that.
We are just up at double raid.
Oh,
another one. What?
No.
Oh, double raid because we're raiding outward.
Micah. Oh.
Thank you so much, though. We are just about to close up here today. For everybody that's coming in, please hit the follow button before we send you off somewhere else. We will be back again tomorrow painting up some more Old Hammer. We started with an Inquisitor today. We'll be painting that again. You want to put it back on the screen? We're doing a Terminator Inquisitor.
Yep.
Old Hammer Terminator Inquisitor. So we started with the fundamental blocking in for what will be non-metallic gold for all of his armor.
Yep.
We'll continue on with that tomorrow.
2 p.m.
And then we'll do all the detail. He ought to go pretty quick. And then we've got Old Hammer Gray Knight Terminator, which will be a lot of fun. So we'll do that. And then we were just talking about possibly giving chat the ability to pick the faction we do for an Old Hammer, really old metal open air land speeder that we have.
Yeah.
Like the OG kind that is complete and amazing. Big kudo or big shout out to Kyle.
Kyle's got one. That's crazy.
Our ops manager for bringing that in. Awesome.
Cool.
So thank you so much. Welcome in, Raiders. Again, we are Monument Hobbies. We make Pro Acrylic paints. You can check out all the links at, they can't because Chris put it in chat before he got here. Jason acting like chat isn't going to pick the faction anyway. No, acting like chat is going to pick. I'm going to pick it. I'm going to tell you you can, and then I'm going to overrule you. Right? Yeah, it's a space couch with guns, basically. 2 big engines on the back and then guns on the front. That's really what it is. It's like a flying entertainment center. So it's pretty fun. So thanks so much for hanging out. Stick around. We are going to raid somebody else. So sorry for those people that just joined in. We'd love to have you back. Make sure to join in again tomorrow, 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and we will catch you on the flip side. Thanks so much, gang. I'm out of here.